All right, let's move along now and have us a little mailbag. I know we got some questions from our Patreon group. Again, that's a perk to being in our Patreon group is you get to ask questions for the show. We have a little mailbag section there in the chats. So we're going to get to that. I'm going to get to the super chat as well. So if you guys got super chats, fire those in there. I'll try to keep up with the regular chat as well. But Mike Z with the super chat, appreciate you, buddy. He says, we, in my opinion, don't want a rookie at center this year. I'm not saying draft one, but can't wait for development. Gotcha. So essentially what he's saying, if I'm understanding correctly, Mike, you're saying you're okay with drafting one, but boy, oh boy, if we're just going to plan on him being the starting center, that's not a good look, right? I mean, he may be a stud. He may be the next Linderbaum. He may be the next, gosh, I can't remember his name now that we took. I've got so many names in my mind right now. The Chiefs center. Can't even remember his name. Anyway, he may be that guy if you draft the dude in the second or third round to start at center. It could be, but the chances of that happening are pretty slim. So why risk it, right, Mike? I agree with what you're saying there, man. Go get Tyler Linderbaum. Get it done. Day one. Now, if he re-signs with Baltimore, right, if that happens, then, and I wouldn't rule that out, but if he re-signs with, no, it wasn't Lindsley there, Holmes. It was, I'm trying to think, Creed Humphrey. Thank you, Mike. There you go. Yeah, Chad Inc. got it too. Yeah, Creed Humphrey's who I was trying to think of. So if you land somebody like that, obviously they're going to be a great starter right out of the gate. It is what it is. But you can't bank on that, And I know there needs to be conviction in your picks, and I get all that, but I like what Mike's saying. It's too important of a position. Are we just going to do this again? What Holmes mentioned there with Lindsley, that was the last great center we had, right? How long ago was that? My goodness. And we just keep this. Well, we draft Josh Myers, and right out of the gate, it's like, this don't look good. Well, let's give him another year. This still don't look good. Well, this is the year. He played better last year. I heard that after his second year, and I'm like, what the hell, y'all? It reminded me of the Anthony Belton talk this year. I'm like, he may be a good player, but there's nobody that's going to convince me Anthony Belton played great this year. What are we watching the same tape? What are we? So anyway, Corey Lindsley, when you moved on from him, you went to what? I think it was Josh Myers immediately, right? And then from Josh Myers last year, we tried to kick Elgton Jenkins over. That didn't work, right? And to me, this is what gives me hope about Linderbaum, guys, is the fact that Goody thought it was important enough to move Elgton Jenkins to center, and he agreed to that, which, by the way, full disclosure here, there are some people that have convinced themselves that was Matt LaFleur's idea and they should have never done it. He should have stayed at left guard. That was Elgton Jenkins' idea. Elgton Jenkins said he wanted to play center, and he said he could improve that center position. And I agreed with it. Did he play great? No. Did he play bad? No, he didn't play bad, but he couldn't stay healthy. And he definitely didn't take the step that I thought he would moving to center, which many people believe, if you take a guard or a tackle and move them to center, they should perform much better, right? If they have the capabilities of playing center, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, man, you need to go get this shirt up. You got to go get it shirt up right now. And I think Linderbaum is the answer. And again, I would be okay with Connor McGovern. I think that would be an upgrade as well. So for sure. Yeah, Mike Z says, we're talking about the Favre era. I don't think it was the Favre era when Lindsley was here. It definitely wasn't. But when you look back at the Favre era and what they did at the center position, my goodness, you have Frankie Winters holding it down forever, right? There was some really good centers that played before, for sure. But yeah, you have to go back a while, Mike. There's no doubt about that, man. No doubt about that. All right, let's jump into the mailbag here on our Patreon group. Again, you guys can have access to this if you join our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. It works just like Super Chats here on the live stream. Let's go with Johnny B right out of the gate. Johnny B said, here's a Jacob late 7th or undrafted free agent guy, center Bryce Foster from Kansas. He was originally looked at a potential first or second round guy, but he committed a lot of time to shot put in college, and many think it hurt his NFL stock. He's supposed to be well focused on the draft now and could be a bargain pick. So if I go over here now, and again, his name is Bryce Foster, and we find him on the list, we've got him in the 207 spot, so he's definitely a late round guy. Consensus Big Board had him at 334 at College Inn, 251 on the PFF Big Board. He graded out as the 62nd best center, not great in 25, but in 24, if you apply the Jaden Reed effect, he was the 21st highest graded center. So wouldn't hate to pick late, Johnny. However, I think we would all agree don't want to go in with that guy planning on being your starting center. And Johnny B's not saying that, I don't believe. But that is a guy that you might be able to add some extra value there at the center position if you go that route, right? So, and we got Johnny B with another one. Bryce is the name of the day here. He said, curious what you think of wide receiver Bryce Lance from North Dakota State. He's a possible replacement for Wicks if we plan to move on from him. He was coached by Coach Noah Pauley, and I think he played with Christian Watson his freshman year at North Dakota State. He's not a step in and start guy, but looks like great potential guy to work with or work in from this year's draft. So when we look at our boy, again, I know he's on the list. He's fairly high. Bryce Lance. We type in his name into our board here. Bryce Lance, we've gotten the 112 spot, Johnny B. 112. Graded out really well. In 2024, he was the 14th highest graded wide receiver. In 25, he jumped all the way to 7th. The consensus big board had him at 150. The PFF big board had him at 134. Tankathon had him in the 143 spot. Dame Brugler has him at 99. So that's a solid prospect. The problem is he sits in the 112 spot, right? Where would we be willing to draft him? You know, if you don't want to use 84 on him, would you use 120 on him? It would be a good value pick, although there's probably other prospects at positions of need that you'd rather have there. And if you spin that pick on someone like a Bryce Lance, how long is he going to have to sit? And again, at pick 120, you want those guys to contribute a little bit, right? I'll put it this way, Johnny, you could sell me on it after pick 120. I'd be okay with it for sure. But before 120, it's like, that's tough because we got so many other positions of need, right? And again, if he's hands down the best prospect on the board when we pick, I have no problem with the pick at 120. I don't. However, I don't think he'll be the best prospect on the board because you guys know how these things shuffle throughout the whole draft process. So appreciate you, Johnny. You are the man. And then on to Ron Samville's comment here. He said, did you notice that the Green Bay Packers were PFF's top graded tackling team? 81.3 grade was 7 points higher than second at 74.7 with the Lions. Just wondering your thoughts on that. I think it holds true to what we've seen. I think the Packers were a very good tackling team. I think that was a bright spot of their defense ever since Jeff Hafley arrived. I was worried that would drop a little bit this year with Anthony Campanelli leaving as linebacker coach, but it didn't. It didn't drop significantly. Obviously, we were the highest graded tackling team. So you got to ask yourself, what happened on those latter games? Like, why did the Packers struggle against the Bears? Why did we give up 25 points in the fourth quarter? Why did all these things happen, right? Injuries, you know? You're putting up good tackle grade numbers all year long, and the injuries kept piling up. And then, bang, second half of the Chicago Bears game, you don't have Edgerrin Cooper. I mean, we're essentially playing with late round and undrafted free agent guys now, right? So, like, what are we supposed to do in that regard? So, it doesn't surprise me, Ron, and I think it's a positive thing that even after Anthony Campanelli, we continued to tackle well, right? So now the question becomes, was it Sean Duggan? Because now he's gone, right? Like, or is it Goody is specifically keyed in on when we're drafting defensive players we want them to tackle? I'll tell you, the first thing that came to mind for me, Ron, when I read your comment doing the show prep, the first thing that came to mind for me was Javon Bullard. Javon Bullard, really good against the run in that slot spot. I'm expecting Javon Bullard to take another step this year, and I'm excited about it because I think he can be a vital part of this defense. They're playing that slot, nickel, star, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, doesn't surprise me, but I think it's very, very, very important. So, all right. So there you go. There is your mailbag of the day. So we'll just hang out in here for just a second. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Reef in the chat says, finding out all this information about who controls positions placement is crazy. If the players are confused when playing, this is why. Yeah, if you're talking about switching players around at different positions, like Elgton Jenkins wanted to play center, I think it made a lot of sense. Now, if that conversation is what pushed them in the direction of going Aaron Banks, I don't think moving Elgton to center was as much of a problem as it was Goody's thinking that Aaron Banks was the guy he thought he was. You know, and it's obvious he had a very high draft grade on Aaron Banks, or else he wouldn't have spent that kind of money on him. And I told you guys it was as soon as we get the contract details, and we'll do the same thing with the free agency class this year. people heard 4 years, $77 million. They said, "Oh my God, they overpaid." And then they're like, "Let's wait and see what the contract says." And then when we looked in the contracts, they can get out of it after year one, and they can really get out of it with a post-June cut, right? And that's the situation we're at. But again, I held out hope that Goody knew what he was doing there, and the reality is he swung and missed. You got Aaron Banks at $24.8 million against the cap this year. You can free up $4 million immediately, or you can go post June 1 and free up $18 million, but you got to carry that earlier cap charge until June. But yeah, it was a bad signing. Now listen, they may keep him around another year, and it may pop this year, and we're having to eat our words. And I hope that's the case. I hope I'm looking back midway through the season and going, thank God Goody didn't listen to Clayton and get rid of Aaron Banks, because, man, that guy really stepped up this year. That was a reason we had success in the run game, or a reason that we had good pass. I hope that's the case. Just based off what we've seen last year, you can't really say that. And as much as people like the dog PFF, and myself included from time to time, when you looked at the PFF grades, it didn't match up with what Aaron Banks got in free agency, right? So kind of is what it is there. Let's see here. Joseph says Elgton was starting to be washed during last season. That's why I didn't buy the transition. Understandably so, Joseph. He's definitely not the same player. I mean, he peaked in 2021, and he's definitely tapered off since then, right? So it's just kind of a tough situation altogether. It really is. But again, man, we can't harp on that, right? You move on and you fix the problem. And that's what I'm saying. Like, off the list that we looked at, and I'll wrap up with this. Aaron Banks, I think we'd all agree that didn't work last year. Elgton Jenkins, it didn't work out, right? They're both $24.8 million against the cap. Guys, that's $49 million of our cap space in two players that we all agree underperformed. I don't think there's anybody that says those guys, no, they played like I expected them to. There's nobody saying that, no matter who's breaking down the tape, who's covering the Packers, right? So if you move on from those guys, you free up $18 million post-June for Aaron Banks, and you free up $20 million immediately with Elgton Jenkins. So imagine you move on from your left guard and your center, and then you go and you get Tyler Linderbaum to start at center, okay? And let's say you have to give him $22 million per. His first year cap hit's going to be about $18 million. That's still however much cheaper there, $6 million cheaper than what Elgton's cap would have been. And then you go and sign one of these guards we talked about, someone like a Tevin Jenkins, who PFF says played significantly better than Aaron Banks last year. What if you got a Tevin Jenkins or an Ed Ingram or a Kevin Zeitler or a Joe Bitonio over Elijah Vera Tucker or a David Edwards or a Samalo there out of Pittsburgh? I would rather stay outside of the top three there and get a really good deal. Like, really, Elijah Vera Tucker down. If you can get one of those 4 or 5 guys I just listed to play left guard for you, and you get them at $4 or $5 million per, you just shave down your bottom line in terms of cap, and you improved your offensive line because you went and got Tyler Linderbaum and you got another starting guard. And guess what? You can still draft an offensive lineman. Maybe Blake Miller still falls to you at tackle, at the tackle position. Maybe he falls to you at 52, and you get the 38th best prospect, former tackle that may kick inside. And I'm not opposed to taking tackles and kicking them inside. I'm not opposed to doing that. I'm opposed to taking a left tackle and making them play right guard. That's just freaking stupid. That makes no sense to me unless there's Zach Tom. And there was no indication that that's what Jordan Morgan was. So now I'm happy that it's looking like we're going to see Jordan Morgan at left tackle, and I think he's going to play good there. I do. I don't think he'll be a drop-off from Rashid. We're going to have him at $4 million as opposed to Rashid, who might get $22 million in free agency. So that's how I would fix the offensive line, is move on from Elgton Jenkins, move on from Aaron Banks, sign Tyler Linderbaum, and get one of those 5 or 6 guards we listed that check the box. Now your offensive line shored up, and then at cornerback, you keep the corners that's coming back, right? And then you go take a pick here on one of these corners in free agency. Someone like, maybe it is Trayvon Diggs. Maybe he's the guy, and you can get him for $5 or $6 million. That'd be awesome, right? Maybe you go get Monteric Brown as well. So now you've taken the weak spots of your roster, offensive line, you've improved it while maintaining or saving cap. And then you add a couple of key pieces at the cornerback position, discounted rates, good deals. Some of these guys, it's got good value a little later. But here's the part that I struggle with convincing myself Goody's going to do this. All of those players I mentioned, for the most part, are aging vets. And he just doesn't like to do that. There's only 2 players on the roster that was over the age of 30. That was your kicker and your long snapper. So I'm still holding out hope we go that route, but that's how I would fix 2 of the biggest needs. And then you let the board come to you. If you go get those free agents we just talked about, Now you let the draft board fall in your lap. And who knows, maybe you look up at 52 and you go, my God, we've got a top 20 talent at edge defender, and he fell right in our lap. We don't need an edge, Clayton. Why not? It's a tier 1 position of importance. That's how you bolster your roster. Maybe a Kristen Miller somehow falls to you at 52. Hell, maybe Goody shocks the world and trades up to 48 and gets somebody like Kristen Miller. And you already shored up your needs at offensive line. You already shored up your needs at cornerback and free agency. And now all of a sudden, bang, you got a stud defensive tackle that we feel really good about contributing day one alongside Devonte Wyatt. And guess what happens there? You now don't have to overpay Devonte Wyatt. I was going to get in that article by Wendell Ferreira. I'll do it a little bit later today, but keep that in mind when we get into that show later today. Imagine if you approach it that way and you did not extend Devonte Wyatt. And what if you were able to trade up a little bit and grab a solid defensive tackle, whether it's whoever it may be here. McDonald will be long gone. Banks will be gone. Peter Woods will be gone. Maybe it's Kristen Miller or Lee Hunter. Maybe one of those fall right in your lap, right? And now all of a sudden you've shored up 3 spots. You've improved your roster in 3 spots that you knew were positions of need. So that's kind of how I see it. I agree. Joseph says we always need a top 20 edge. Amen, buddy. Now, will they be there? Probably not, right? Probably not going to have a top 20 player at the edge position available at 52. But again, when you take care and you seal up some of these holes because you're going to remove the ego and say, okay, we don't have to be the youngest team anymore. Let's get a couple more veterans in here. We can get them at a discounted rate, and they come with experience, and they're not going to crap the bed on when the bright lights come on in the playoffs, right? You shore up those positions in free agency, and now you can let the board come to you in the draft. So that's it. I'm done. Hopefully this show was okay because I feel like crap. And I may seem a little irritable. I apologize if that's the case, but I want to thank everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome. Thank you, Mike, for the super chats, buddy. We appreciate you. Everybody that contributed in here in the chat. The conversation was great. Also, everybody in our Patreon group over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. I'm going to get some of these sheets cleared up for y'all, get some of the errors removed on the schools and things from those cheat sheets, make sure that's correct. And then we'll probably go live again a little bit later today. I'm going to see what the wife wants to do for Valentine's Day. We went to dinner last night, but we may get out and hit some more festivities today. So hopefully everybody has an awesome day. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If you would, hit that like button, hit subscribe, click the bell icon. The biggest thing you can do right now for us, guys, is find our Overflow channel. Go to wherever you get your podcast. Just search Packer Fan Total Access. Subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star review. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. That way, if you're ever on the go and you don't have YouTube handy, you can just go wherever you get your podcast audios, and bang, you got it right there. We're still on PackerNet. You'll find that Monday through Friday, but the weekends, the overflow, the extra content, you can always get that over at Packer Fan Total Access. So that being said, guys, everybody have a great day. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. I'm going to go drink some cough syrup. Go Pack Go.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.